Hello everyone, I'm here today with a new video. This is another flip through video. This is the rest of day 1 in Montreal and then my day 2. And if you remember from my last video, I had a page missing because I didn't order stuff correctly. So I had to go back for it. So I have that here. This part was already here, so it's this page that was missing. So you can see this was a beautiful sunset over the city of Montreal. We had booked a night tour or evening tour for that day. So this started at 7:30 and sunset was about like 8:10, I think, at that time. So really we only had enough time to drive across town, get up there, park, and then kind of wait for the sunset. And this is up at St. Joseph's Oratory of Montreal. That's a mouthful. If you just say the oratory, like when you're in the city, people will know what you mean. I just put in a fun card that I had that kind of matched the orangey tones that were happening in the sunset. And then I had this big 2-inch piece of ephemera. It's from a digital pack from In a Creative Bubble. So I just printed that out, punched it, and it was good to go. And then here is the back side of that one that had been missing. So this was inside the church. So you can see what's happening there. Again, I had a card that was kind of that coral color that matched the sunset and my pants, by the way. So that was perfect. And then I stamped this from a set that I had. I stamped this as well. Threw on a little label there, and that's really all it needed. Now, if you remember from my previous video, I jumped from this to the bagels. But because I'm crazy, not only did I finish my missing layout, I decided to add another one. As if the album isn't big enough, I know. But I loved these photos. Originally, I had thought, oh, I have so many of churches, I don't need those. But these really were beautiful. I loved the contrast between the red and the aqua there, so I wanted to put it in there. So I just made an easy collage in Project Life of those 4 photos, printed it out. It was super simple. Slapped this on. Good to go. And on the back side, I just had one 4x6. This is what it looked like when we left, because by then, of course, it was pretty much full dark, but they had it lit up so beautifully that I wanted to remember that. And then all I needed was one little piece of ephemera there, and that was enough. Okay, so now we're on to the real stuff of what else did we do that night and the next day. So part of the tour that we booked was at the end, you got to ride the wheel that is in Montreal along the water. And normally doing this kind of thing in a city as a tourist, I don't do it. I don't need to ride a giant Ferris wheel. I can kind of do that anywhere. But because it was included, we're like, sure, why not? You know, if it's already part of it. We'd already been down by the water earlier that day. So like we knew the area. So that part was fine. So we're like, cool, maybe we'll just get some fun city shots while we're up high above the city. But it was beautifully lit and it was purple. I love purple, so that worked out really well. So we just took a bunch of different shots along the water before we got on. This one is actually, I think we were waiting to board, and so I could see the back of one clearly that had the name on it. So here, all I had to do really was one pocket card. I did choose to mat this and then stamp, and it was really because I just needed to there's a lot of purple happening. I needed to bring in some gold. So I kind of did that so that I could stamp and then bring in these gold stars, which worked out really well. So these are photos that we got either while we were waiting or while we were up top. So you can kind of see the difference. Clearly, I was at ground level here. On these, I was not. I was up above. And I actually have a set of cards. They're technically for France, but they have some French wording on them. So it works for this. So I use my one that just says oui. This is another 2-inch digital item that I printed and cut out. And I just added sort of the amber color to the lens because of all the amber/gold that was happening here. So here comes the best part of that night. When we were done on the wheel, we're like, we're just going to go along the water and take some shots of the few boats that are there and the city skyline and whatever we see, it's fine. So we're taking pictures and I look at them on my phone. After I've taken a couple, I'm like, that's weird. Like, why do all my photos have this green tint? And I didn't see it really when looking at the sky. And as I'm staring there trying to figure out, should I edit these or what? I realized, oh my God, I think it's because it's the northern lights that I'm seeing this green tint. And sure enough, when we stood there and looked up and kind of focused and really paid attention for what we were looking for, it definitely was the Northern Lights. And we stayed down there for like a half hour trying to catch the different things because it changed kind of from green to more purple after a while. So we wanted to be able to get both. So here you can see this one is much more green. And that was more at the start of it, kind of. This is when it was kind of full blown. And you can see lots of purple happening there with the mix of green. Same here. This one's fading out a little bit. And then this one is definitely more green. But what a show. We totally didn't expect it. We just happened to be in the right place at the right time. I had never seen the Northern Lights until this. So this was kind of the highlight. Both my friend and I, we were freaking out. I'm being honest. We were freaking out because she had never seen them either. So our first time seeing the Northern Lights was in Montreal. So thank you very much, Canada, for providing that for us. And then I just happened to have a card that says Aurora Borealis because when there was a period where the Northern Lights were happening a lot, like across the US, Canada, lots of places. And it was kind of a thing. And one of the creators I like in a creative bubble, she put out the set and I think it was free. And I think maybe it was only 2 cards, but she put it out for people to scrap and I grabbed it thinking, well, you know, if I ever see that, great. And now here it is, got to use it. And for this, I just slapped on a couple of stickers that I had. I did 1 purple star since there was some purple there and that was good, but I did have one other photo and I couldn't quite figure out how to do it. Like I didn't want to have a flip because it would have to be on the back side of this, which is a lot harder to do. It doesn't work the same way. I decided to just say, screw it. I did an insert instead. This allowed me to do some journaling about how we figured out it was the Northern Lights. So that was fun. And then I just put it on the back. So that's another one where you can see it was a mix of good spot of purple up here. And then the rest was green. So it was sort of ever shifting and you never knew what you were going to get when you took a photo. But I'm happy with all of the ones I got. So that was it for day 1 in Montreal. So now we're on to day 2. And we got up very early because our plane actually left that evening. So we wanted to squeeze in as much as we could. So the first thing we did was we're like, okay, what's the farthest thing out that we want to do? Well, that was the Olympic Park. So we thought, all right, we're going to go furthest out to start our day and we'll work our way back in. So we took the metro. That was the only time to and from for this that we really had to take the metro because everything else was either on our tour. It was close enough where we could walk. So it was kind of fun that we finally got to do it. So that's my card from using the metro. Here's the sign when we arrived at Olympic Park, kind of giving us our map of how things were laid out there. And I just talked a little bit about starting our day. And then here we are walking around the complex and really we were the only people there. I think I saw maybe 3 people the whole time we were there. So it was very quiet. It paid to go early because like we got beautiful shots and nobody in them. But really what you're doing is most of it is just walking around outside. Like you don't go into a lot of these facilities unless you have a reason to. And we didn't. So we were totally happy with just exploring the outside. So I just did a quick puffy sticker here with a geotag. Just some stamping that says sightseeing. It's really all that one needed. But then over here, this was a bit more detailed because we could see the rings, which was super fun. And this actually has a ride in it. You can go up in there, like on the elevator and stuff, but it was closed while we were there. First of all, we didn't even know you could do that. So we're like, yay, we're going to do it. We'll get in line, whatever. Then we had disappointment because it was under repair. They were doing something with it, and so it wasn't open. So we didn't get to go up and do the experience, which, made us a little sad, but it's okay. Just gives me incentive to go back at some point. So I kept it simple here. I used a card that said landmark. I figured that was appropriate. And then I just put on a little piece of ephemera and then another one here just to bring in more of that green because there was a lot of green happening since we were outdoors. And that one didn't really need anything else. When we were done with that, within walking distance are the Botanical Garden and this place with the Chateau du Fresnay, I think is how you say it. And we had wavered on the Botanical Garden. We're like, well, it's early May, like what's in bloom? Well, when we looked on their website and we're asking around, like not a lot of stuff was in bloom yet. They were a little behind what we're used to in terms of like tulips coming up and stuff. And so we decided, you know what, we're not going to spend the money for that when we don't know what's actually blooming and will be good. So we chose to do this instead. It was a very, very good idea. I loved this stop. I always have loved historic homes, both for just design and the history of the people that live there. And this worked out really well. And once again, like when we checked in at the desk, there were like 3 people in the whole place that we saw that we crossed paths with. So we pretty much had the place to ourselves, which was awesome. So we could get all the pictures we wanted and nobody in them. But you can see here, here's the front, and then look how detailed this is. And it was actually built by 2 brothers. They wanted to live together, and so they basically built this really as a duplex, half and half. So each brother got a half. And they got to kind of do it as they liked. So you can kind of see some drawings here for when they were designing it. Look how beautiful and ornate this is. And I just got lucky that I had a card that was kind of this color. I could have used black and white, I suppose, but I like this much, much better. And then over here, because I took so many pictures at this place, there's no way I could have fit them all in here. So I thought, all right, I'll be smart. I'll do some photo collages and I'll fit them in that way. So that's why I have this here, multiple. So I fit 4 photos on here on only a 6x8. That's pretty good. I had this digital paper by luck. Look how similar it is to that in the ceiling. I'm like, this was meant to be. So I dropped that in there. And then all I did was add this phrase on top with some enamel dots around. And that was enough because it's quite busy as it is. On the back side, we have more photos in there. I had so many, and this allowed me to fit 5 photos on a 6x8. So I do love doing collages when I have a lot to fit in. And I actually had a selfie, and I'm wearing a black and white shirt, so I thought I'm just gonna use black and white then. So I picked out this, worked out fine, had this actually sitting on my desk, and I thought, well, it fits with what I'm doing and what I'm seeing, so I'm gonna use it. So obviously more pictures inside the house here, the mansion. I just did some easy journaling, but then I did use some phrase strips to kind of offset everything. And once again, I got super lucky. Look what a good match this blue is to what's happening here in the ceilings. And then this card, again, kind of that red brick color with almost a brown tinge. It worked really well with what was going on in all of these photos. And then once we were done with the main part of the house, they had an art exhibit going. Apparently, when they were designing the house, they had specific requests. And part of that was glasswork by this specific artist, Nincherry. And so they drew up plans and everything. You can kind of see here, these were the drawings of what they wanted to put in the house. And then the exhibits supplemented with other things, that were his works that weren't necessarily in the house or part of the house, but went along with the theme. And it was gorgeous. And I hate to say it, I had never heard of this person before I went to this. So again, I think I was meant to be there to learn about this because I found it fascinating. I love stained glass artwork anyway. So it really worked out that this was very much for me. So I'm glad that we chose to do this stop instead of the garden. So when we were done here, that did take a while. We grabbed the metro again and then took it back into the city and we went to the art museum. So you can see here, it's the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. So this is my ticket here that got us in there. And this was specifically so the rest of the museum was open and you can go in, but we specifically wanted to see their Georgia O'Keeffe exhibit, which you needed another ticket for that. So that's totally fine. So we got that arranged so we can get in there. And then we saw the Georgia O'Keeffes, and they were fantastic, of course. And these two had similar styles and color schemes, so I wanted to put those together. And it helped cover up just the ugly back of the ticket because there really wasn't anything to see there. So this helped me utilize that space for something good. And then these are some of the other paintings over here, and quite eclectic in terms of color and trying to match everything, but luckily there was a lot of red happening, a lot of orange and white. So I tried to put those all together, and then this card just worked out really well, that it was sort of a darker orange, faded orange color, and all I had to do is just check the box that says art gallery visit. And I put MMFA on there to indicate, yep, we were at this museum, and called it good, really. What's nice about this is because you don't want to distract from the artwork, you can use minimal embellishments on the page and it's totally fine. So we did decide to close out our visit to the museum by hitting the Impressionist area. I pretty much have to do that anywhere that they have Impressionist paintings because that's my favorite genre of art, at least for the time being. That and Chihuly glass, which they didn't have. We actually did look for one piece and it was off view, sadly, so we didn't get to see it. But the rest of this was great, so that's fine. And I actually have a new card that says a day at the museum, so I had to use it. And again, I just tried to match colors with what I had, and this kind of coral peach color came out from this Monet here. And so I thought, all right, I'll use that. And I happened to have a strip available. The phrase was fine, so I used that one. And then easy card, there was a lot of green happening in these photos, and so did that. And then I've used this multiple times for museum visits. All I do is, it's a digital, so all I do is just resize it to different sizes that I want so that I'm able to use my circle punches in the sizes that I have, and it works out really well. So that was pretty much it for sightseeing. Kind of some big things that took a little bit more time, so we weren't jumping to 8 different places. And it was actually a relaxed morning. I don't feel like we were rushed at all. But after this, we did have to go back to our Airbnb to get our bags and then get ourselves to the airport, and we chose to just Uber to the airport. I think when I looked, we could have taken the train, but this was the last day. We were so tired. We had walked so much. We're like, you know what? We don't even want to think about it. We're just going to do the Uber and call it good. And it really wasn't even that expensive, so it worked out. But here is some artwork that they had in the airport in Montreal, and we just loved these, and it worked really well to size them as a 4x4. So chose to do that, and then I picked the white border just because there was white happening, and it felt so crisp, and it's very sort of modern art. I felt like it just worked really well. So the only thing I needed to do here was, I had this from my Canadian digital set. I just chose the airport code, the tag that's appropriate, wrote a quick little phrase, and that's it. Because we did have an evening flight, we knew we were going to have dinner in the airport because the flight is actually short from Montreal to Minneapolis, just like Toronto and Minneapolis. It's not that much further. We didn't expect we'd get anything of substance really on the plane, so we're like, you know what, we'll have a last meal in Canada. And so I had bangers and mash at this pub here. It was actually decent for airport food. You know what? Not bad. So I recommend it. If you're in the Montreal airport, try this. And really, because of all the colors and stuff happening, all I had to do is slap this little label on there, which I love because I don't know if you're like me, but when I reach the end of an album, I'm kind of over it. I just want to like get through those last layouts quickly. It's a bad habit I have, kind of, that I'm like, you know what? You just get a label and that's it. You don't need anything else when I look at these layouts. So you can kind of tell I had reached my limit and was ready to be done. But I had it on there. I at least said something. And then over here, I just took the shot out the window. Same thing. I just found an easy piece of ephemera where all I had to do was write in the date and my destination airport, MSP. That's my home airport. And it didn't need anything else. And then lastly, I liked that this was a 4x8 because I could just pick a smaller pocket card, and I had one that was 4x8. This one actually said something else up here, and I didn't like it. Like, it was multicolored. It didn't really work with what I wanted. So it worked out perfectly that I could just slap on this 4x3 photo that I had. My friend took this of me. This is out front of the art museum. I loved it. And so I thought, I'm going to save that and use it at the end. So there I am saying, I loved my time in Canada. It was awesome. And then I just did some quick journaling about the trip. I had a phrase strip that was like just the right size, perfect color, perfect sentiment. Why not use it? So that's how I closed out the album. And I hope you've enjoyed seeing me put all of these together and going through an entire week-long trip with me in a huge album. So everybody, thanks for watching.